Okay, the origins of the rollaway. It'd be good to understand a little bit about how the invention came about.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're a Norfolk-based firm. Norfolk, I mean, even now, but certainly historically, is kind of pretty well known for its farmland. We've got a lot of farmers around. We happen to have one who, a friend of the business, funny enough, not so much a client, but was just saying, hey, getting in and out of culverts and ditches, and and that the sort of field edges, headlands, that kind of thing. Um, Almost came about from a sketch on the back of a beer card in a pub. It was that sort of thing where ultimately we talked about producing a portable set of stairs for him. Is there something that you can throw in the back of one of his trucks, in the back of a wagon, take out to site, carry it out, roll it out, kind of gives it the name, but yeah, to ultimately produce a portable access tool. I mean, portable access tool is maybe the posh name for it, but portable stairs is ultimately the idea there. Um, it worked great for him. It worked great for a couple of other farmers that we knew in the area, and ultimately thought, hang on a minute, we might have something here that a few more people up and down the country might be
Yeah.
interested in. So we did a little bit of more with agriculture. Um, and off the back of it, again, kind of had this brainwave of thinking, surely there are more people who are thinking, I can't get up and down this. I'm gonna, run the risk of slipping on my backside. Um, who else can we talk to? And one of the big opportunities that we found from this actually was in the water industry. Um, the more we sort of went to take this seriously, the more we talked with health and safety teams. And the really funny thing that came from this in talking to kind of the health and safety teams was, what do you expect your teams to do in a situation where they have to get down an embankment or access water's edge or something where you've got an incline there? What should they do? And every good health and safety professional has a fabulous answer. I mean, a really great, tidy, polished policy answer. Of course, the follow up to that is, what do they actually do? What do your teams really do when nobody's necessarily looking and they've just got a quick job that doesn't need 20 pages of policy? What's the solution? And more often than not, it's either we don't know or they probably don't follow the policy and they just need something quick and easy. And from that, we're thinking we've got something here that is quick to use, straightforward, lightweight. It doesn't need, a great deal of setting up or anything like that. You roll it out, a few seconds later, you've done what you need to do, and away you go.
Okay, it sounds intriguing. And clearly you mentioned obviously the water industry you're looking at, but it's it's new to the water industry, and I guess we can it's fair to say the water industry is fairly sort of traditional when it comes to adopting new
Yeah.
technologies. But so why do you think the community should be interested in the rollaway, in particular?
Yeah, absolutely. So health and safety is a big part of this. Ultimately, we know, as I said before, what health and safety should be doing versus sometimes what it does do. The stats, without sort of getting into numbers, we know, for example, year 23 to 24, we had 19,000 incidents reported by the HSE for slip, trips, and falls. That feeds into lost time incidents, lost time accidents. That's taking people away from the front line essentially. That's operational time lost. Um, but the reverse of that, of course, is when we are looking at kind of quick access solutions, for example, the actual setup time alone can often kill a job before you get there. If we're talking about a specific situation, for example, um, certainly in your area, in your network, you'll have water teams that will be doing water sampling, for example. That's a job that might necessarily only take a few minutes to kind of do in terms of collecting the sample itself. But you may well have weeks and weeks of prep and setup for this, where you've got somebody saying that you need to spend 3 weeks installing access to the place where you're going to be working for 3 minutes, and that's not necessarily the most ideal when we know how the water industry is changing at the moment, and certainly a little earlier in the year there were some big changes there. Water teams want to be more reactive. They want to be much more careful about the money that they're spending. As much as anything, we've got something that is helping out with time, but also helping out in terms of, at least as I see it, a quicker way to carry out the jobs. Improves efficiency all round essentially.
Yeah, and I mean, I've seen a demo of it, so I have to say I was sort of blown away about how sort of easy and quick it is. But just to follow up on that, I suppose the kind of situations you see, you've obviously mentioned sort of various examples, but if you want to give us a sort of big overview of where you think it, and I guess how it works would perhaps be the right time as well, just so that people can understand, therefore where it is applicable.
Yeah.
The
Yeah,
key.
absolutely. So we are definitely thinking about kind of quick access here. Um, we're not looking to replace situations where a permanent or semi-permanent set of concrete stairs with, full handrails would be the norm. But in a situation where we have some form of emergency, we might be talking about a pollution event or a leakage or something like that. Certainly when we're talking about water, it's a tool that's giving you as close to instant access to awkward places as we can reasonably give you. It's designed for those situations where you're needed for minutes or hours as opposed to weeks and months on site essentially. We know that this is pretty handy, as I said, for water sampling, and in those situations where we know people are accessing the water, but it's only for very short periods of time. On that basis, it's pretty, it's kind to the environment insofar as it's a temporary solution and it's not damaging what's already there. But also anything that's kind of tight access or awkward access. We had an instance recently where it was for a longer term job, but the access they had was less than half a meter wide, and really getting something permanent or even just access to put something in there is pretty difficult. Here was a solution that would just go and sit into place. So that our main expectation with this is that we'll be looking at relatively quick access instances, or sort of emergency short term, that sort of thing. But we know it's put together right, and it will stay for longer if needed. I mean, we said before you can have it for 3 minutes or 3 months. It's pretty good for that sort of thing.
Yeah, and in terms of how it works, I mean, obviously, terms of folks can have a watch. I think via the website, but just give us some understanding of what is involved in. You mentioned obviously concrete steps, so it's clearly far removed from
Yes.
those, but
Yeah.
gives people some kind of visual impression of what they actually get and how it works.
Yeah, perfect. This is a great one because I've spent this morning, funnily enough, going and doing a little bit of film and video and photo work with this. So I've literally this morning been doing it all hands on. So um, the idea really is to make the process as straightforward as possible. So I mean, we're in Norfolk, so I tell you what, trying to find an incline, a good incline was honestly half the battle. But we've got some great waterways here. We've got the Broads, yeah, we can carry the rollaway to site. I can do that myself. I'm not any sort of strong man at all, but it's designed to be carried under your arm and to site. Again, roll away. The clue is in the name a little bit. You can hold on at the top, and it will roll down your embankment. Gravity can kind of do the hard work. Again, we know these get used in different places, in different sites, in different ways, and so I would always recommend that at site you carry out your own sensible risk assessment for it. We know these get used in different ways. It's not like a completely standardized expectation where I can say this is the way to do it. So carry out your own risk assessment with it. But in my example this morning, that we had a couple of ground pegs. They get hammered into the ground at the top, and there are pins and kind of metal framed holes in the rollaway to hold it into place. The actual matting itself that makes up kind of the stairway, as it was it's almost like rubber Velcro is perhaps the way that I would explain it. It's a grip top material, but it's you've got a smooth surface on one side and kind of claws that come out of the bottom, and so you get a certain amount of friction grip when you're on slippy grass. I mean, this time of year, everywhere's pretty damp. And yeah, and then as straightforward as walking up and down it. The rollaway itself has a series of treads on there. We currently do those as so sort of a 90-degree tread with a 45 degree angle. We've used those from, I mean, anything from a 20-degree angle, which interestingly was one of our clients' cut-off points for incline before they needed to consider sort of something to help them get up and down. Not that I would necessarily want to be doing it every day, but we've had it at pretty steep angles where again you can use it almost as a ladder section. So there's a lot of ways to use it. In terms of actually how it works, super simple in that you take it to where it's got to go, you roll it out, and you walk up and down like a normal set of stairs.
Okay, and in terms of the folks that use it, you obviously mentioned that the farming community, if you like, was your starting point. But
Yes,
who else has been using it? And I guess sort of part two of that would be what feedback have you had from the users?
Yeah, absolutely. So the water industry has been a really interesting learning curve for us, and again, Norfolk based, Anglia based. I'm sure there's a pretty big clue in what sort of water firms we're going to be talking about there. And we know that those guys have been pretty impressed with the Rollaway so far. We're pretty close to Whitlingham here, so they are literally just down the road, and so there's a lot of water access instances there. For those that know Whitlingham and kind of how the rivers come through Norwich, the river travels around the Broad itself, and so you've almost got like a dike down the middle that faces one side into the Broad, one side into the river. So there's a lot of embankment in terms of just meterage along the water there. So that's suited them really well. We've worked with a few other national water companies as well, particularly with sampling. And again, we know when those guys are using them in pretty decent quantities, how they're using them and how they work for them as well. The water industry is not just your water companies, but we've got a whole range of the civil engineering firms and and subcontractors that make up the fabric of the industry. And again, we're starting to see requests and and sort of projects come out from some of these subcontractors as well, where what we hear more often than not, and this is kind of one of the big bits of feedback that we get, is we've never heard of this before. Why have we not heard of this before? Because it solves this for me, or it solves that for me. And it's one of these ones where when people know what it is and what it does, most people in our industry are looking at this and have an application in their mind where they think that would have worked for me then, or I've got this coming up and this this suits me. But the feedback honestly from certainly from the water industry so far has been really positive, and it's so great when you have what is a relatively new product to the market, where your customers, and particularly ones from big name water firms, are wanting to send you pictures of Pete and Harry and Tom going up and down, and there's Sandra having a go with a bag of tools, and and it's all that sort of thing. I think that's just really fantastic to get back and kind of see the realities of it. But it's been a good response from the people that we've worked with so far.
Excellent. And maybe, I mean, are there particular sort of technical aspects of the product to share, whether it's sort of load bearing, does it come in different sort of shapes and sizes? Just anything you can tell us about the actual.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's kind of a couple of ways to look at it. We've got the technical side, we've got the practical side. In terms of the technicalities, I won't run through numbers on a data sheet, but I can give you that information. Anybody that's interested, we can have a look at that. But it's sort of over engineered to a point where unless you've got, people stood on every tread carrying another person in each arm, we're not at the point of tensile failure in the materials. That's kind of the pulling apart failure of the material. The shapes in the treads themselves, so it's a triangular section of rubber, and as a stair piece, we've got the run and then the tread. We extrude these ourselves, so everything gets made here in Norwich. We make all of the bits and pieces; it all gets put together here. But because the business behind Rollaway in Walker Rubber has been around for so long and has got a real history in rubber manufacturing, we've got the beauty of being able to be super bespoke with all the parts of it. And so this tread in particular has had hours put into making the tread the right amount of grip on the top, the right amount of flex on the side, and then enough wall in the actual profile itself that it's sturdy enough to support what we need it to support, but it isn't a solid block. I mean, the less material you can put into it, the lighter it becomes ultimately. Again, the materials that we use, not to be too technical with it, but within the world of rubber, there are many, many types of rubber. If you think about car tires, for example, it's just one type of synthetic rubber ultimately. We work with another, and this particular one is called EPDM. It's got a very long name for what EPDM means. I'd love to pretend I know what it is, but I don't know off the top of my head. But it's a chemically inert. It's a very stable rubber. I think some people have this conception of rubber fading or shrinking in the sun. It kind of goes white and blooms a little bit. EPDM is designed and chemically built not to do that. So we know the materials themselves are are sturdy and kind of put together right. And yeah, we're proud of what we've kind of put together there. We like all of the constituent parts. We know that they're kind of built right, but from a practical point of view, which is honestly, I think what most people are going to think about really with this. I don't know how many people are going to look at this and get excited about the EPDM rubber that makes it up. But in terms of the actual practical, the using, again, we know it's important to kind of make sure you do your own site risk assessment and that sort of thing. But we just want people to understand that this is a tool to improve, or at the very least decrease the risk of slips and falls in those kind of situations. The rollaways themselves, in terms of what's available, we've got two widths there. There's a 400mm wide and a 600mm wide. The 400mm is incredibly popular because it's narrow enough to kind of get down some of these awkward little spaces. In terms of lengths, we manufacture standard sizes at 2, 3, 4, and 5 meter lengths. The 3 meter length by 400 wide is by far the most popular because it's a sensible weight. It comes in at about 17 or so kilos, and so it's kind of on the cusp of being the right size, the right weight to kind of get to where you need it to be, but also long enough that it's actually solving an issue for you. We've more recently designed these to be modular as well. So this was something else actually that came out of some of the feedback that we had, was that 400mm by 3 meter stretch is by far the most popular. And now we're in a position where you can pin them together. So we get all the benefits of lightness and portability and practicality and storage and all that sort of thing. But if you've got a longer kind of section to work with, you can get them stuck together as well. But I tell you what, if you ask me really nicely, because we do all the manufacturing here, we can be completely bespoke with this as well. We've had conversations where people have asked for, I've said before about this 90-degree 45 degree angle. If you wanted a 60-30, for example, a shallower kind of, shallower profile, again, we've got the means to do all of that and the luxury of getting it all done here as well. So the standardized ones are certainly more popular, but that's not to say that we can't and wouldn't be excited to put together something a bit more bespoke if needed.
Excellent. I guess the final and obvious question is how can people get hold of one? Is it directly via yourselves? Are you distributing it via, I don't know, builders merch? Just where are you at in terms of how
Yeah,
folks can
absolutely.
get hold of
So
it?
in the short term, direct is best, certainly for anybody that's UK based. We can support with a couple of distributors overseas, but in terms of UK, direct to us. Nice and easy. It's therollaway.co.uk is a website. All of our details are on there. You can, I mean, if you want to, you can come and speak to me about it again, and I'll tell you some more. Similarly, we've got units that are available for demo. I'd love to be able to show these off to people. If you want to know what it will do at at your site and your environment, come and ask, and we'll gladly show you. We'll gladly get one sent up.
Excellent. It's been fantastic to chat, and as I say, I've seen it, and it's one of those things. I mean, the water industry, we traditional pumps, valves, pipes, and stuff like that, and this is just so different and so refreshingly sort of innovative. So I wish you all the best with it, and thanks for sharing so much time and insights into what you're doing. So Sam, I
Yeah,
appreciate it.
thank you so much. Great to speak to you.